something back to the public schools. And I see that it's going to be very difficult if as you say, they are diverting funds. The pool is going to get smaller and smaller, and it's going to be a little bit harder to fight for public school education. In the meantime, you're going to have people, not necessarily who have no religion, but who are of a different religion, going to a school. You're going to have a Jew going to a Catholic school, or perhaps vice versa. I'm not sure what the situation is here. That's going to create a little social difficulty. I'm not sure that it would create much academic difficulty. And as you say, if it's in the early years, I think perhaps that can be smoothed over.
But why don't we then go ahead and not allow Tulane University to get the subsidies that they do? They get significant help from the state of Louisiana. Let's apply it. If it's good for elementary schools and high schools, why isn't it good for colleges? We have a proliferation of private and public schools that work side by side, that compete for better students. And then you get into the whole area. Then why should a child have to go to this school? Just open it up and let the kids go wherever they want to go to school. You've got an overall bigger. You got some bigger issues there to deal with.
That's true, but the problem is that that we do have a variety of universities and colleges here, but we don't have a variety of private schools, especially for the ones that can get these vouchers. And you mentioned this, they may start up some new schools, but this law says they have to have been in existence for a few years to qualify for the vouchers. This money is going to go to the Catholic parochial schools because they're the only ones who are available to provide the service. So it isn't as a matter of, well, I'm going to send my child to a private school, but I don't want him to get religious instruction. Where are they going to send them?
Well, I think that just doesn't bother me, Harry. It doesn't bother me. I have. I'm looking at this state that I love and has been a focus of my life for so many years, and you compare it to North Carolina. And I was Dean Smith's first recruiter ever brought to the University of North Carolina. I'm a Tar Heel. If you go out to my car right now, I keep a Tar Heel on my car all the time. So I know a lot about education in North Carolina. And they made some very courageous decisions 20 years ago under Governor Terry Sanford, when he was governor of that state, to focus on public education that has never been done here in Louisiana. Money was put there. Property taxes were raised significantly. You and I both know that your home in Charlotte would pay 4 times the property taxes it would pay in the city of New Orleans, because those folks are committed to putting that money into public education. Right. And we just don't have that universal mindset, and as we do, the system seems to be sinking more and more. So out of frustration, now, I wouldn't have done it the same way. I ran for governor back in 1987, and I thought about vouchers. Well, let's just give them a try and see what happens in some very specific locations. Take a North Louisiana parish, take Terrebonne in South Louisiana perhaps, take 2 or 3 parishes, try it for 4 or 5 years on an experimental basis and see the bottom line results of private versus public and see if it works.
Jim, I think you're too reasonable.
Jumping in full blast into Orleans, quite frankly, I think you have some legitimate concerns.
Now, before our show ends, and if you're willing to do so, I'd like to hear a little bit about your forthcoming book, which is called Adventures of an Alternative Reality of Living in Louisiana. Can you talk about that?
And the subtitle is Enter at Your Own Risk is what it shows on the cover. It's a compilation of my thoughts about this state, the highs and the lows, the successes and its failures, and where we ought to be focusing in the next few years. Unfortunately, what we've never done is we always look towards solving the immediate problem and deal with the current crises. We don't look further down the line. That's where the difference is in North Carolina.
And when you say we, who is this we?
Well, I think we being, we are elected officials, I think. But I think citizens groups are looking for immediate results. We just want things to happen now, and we're not willing to invest in a solution that may take 15 or 20 years. And so I think I've tried to struggle with that whole era to see where should we go in the next 10, 15 years if we want to see a quality of life that maybe we don't have right now, but I think all of us want.
Well, but now when you've described the problem, or do you also propose solutions?
Yeah,
in your
I
book?
think we've got to get out of this mindset of circling. Governor Jindal has been up in Baton Rouge with the wagon train circled as the arrows are coming at him, and it seems like we go from crisis to crisis to crisis. Had a former governor of California tell me once, Jim, sometimes your legislature and the leaders of your state need to let some of those small brush fires alone. Don't have to worry about putting out everyone. Most of them take care of themselves. And do a little thought planning for where we should go later on down the line. And I've laid out ideas in insurance. Well, the legislature didn't even mention insurance, and yet insurance rates are the highest in America here in virtually every category. It wasn't even touched on by our legislature. It wasn't mentioned one time up there of any consequence. So what do we do with education? What do we do with these problems in terms of going 20 years down the line? And that's what I've tried to touch on.
And as in either state, parish, or city governments, do they have someone who has that position, that title that says, look farther ahead and tell us what we should
the
be.
The look-ahead guy.
Do they have anyone who's supposed to do that?
That would be nice. Can we create a position?
First of all, we got too many positions. We had to limit it. Do we need 64 parishes in this state? Why do we need 64 parishes? There ought to be a metropolitan planning government in the city of New Orleans that brings us all together. You got a port in Plaquemine. You got a port up the river. You got a port in have one port. Have one planning area. Have one streetcar system and one bus system.
So you could qualify for that person who would talk about future planning.
Oh no, not in my. I want to stir up the heat. I want to stir up the discussion, just like you tried to do on this show.
Okay, well, and you do that on your show.
Very much so.
Well, all right, Farrar, we got a minute or two. Is there anything you want to add to what we've talked about here, and then we'll talk about some other things on our next show?
Well, I was just thinking about the fact that you do have your work cut out for you, because it is hard to recruit someone for an organization whose goal will be fulfilled sometime within the next 15 to 30 years. You'll say, join up right now, and in 30 years, we'll have something we can really be proud of.
Well, you've got that 30 years available. I don't, and Jim probably does, but
we'll give it to like
you can see that my hair is even whiter than his.
I'll run for consolidation officer.
I just want to tell you, both of you, what a privilege it has been to have you on our show. I want to thank you for being here. And I hope that our audience has appreciated and enjoyed what we have done. We're looking forward to have you with us again next week. Let me interrupt. You all need to swap seats. And be careful of your